Delighted to welcome Dr. Sasan Jankovic today to speak and share their experience, their real-world clinical data, how they use Viz in both hemorrhagic and ischemic stroke. My name is Chris Mancy. I'm a neurosurgeon by training, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Viz. And I'm going to give you a quick 5-minute overview of what we're doing and what's to come at Viz, because we really want to work with all of the people who are on this webinar here today to try and improve healthcare, to try and improve the lives of our patients. You know, I founded the company in 2016 with this mission, which is to fundamentally improve how healthcare is delivered in the world through intelligent software that promises to reduce time to treatment, improve access to care, and increase the speed of diffusion of medical innovation. No matter where a patient shows up, and I know Dr. Hassan has got a patient on the table right now, we need to make sure that patient is getting to him as fast as possible so we can get that clot out. And we need to do that not just in stroke care, but more broadly in any disease that disables you or kills you unless it's treated in an optimal manner. And that's what we're hoping to do here at Viz. We want to make sure that we can put action into healthcare to put patients first. The system of action is a very powerful, but ultimately simple concept. We ingest healthcare data like the CT scans, the CT angiogram scans that you all do to look at the vasculature in stroke. We use AI to automatically detect the disease, measure the disease, or predict what might happen with the disease. And we use that insight to trigger action, letting Dr. Jankovic, Dr. Hassan know that there's a patient that they could treat or include in their study, even though that patient is currently in a different hospital to where they're currently based today, and allowing them to communicate, allowing them to organize decision-making, treatment, and transfer of that patient. Ultimately, it's about enabling therapy to improve clinical outcomes, better, more efficient health systems, and faster clinical trials. And we'll talk about all of that today through some real examples that we've seen in Dr. Jankovic and Dr. Hassan's centers. Ultimately, it's about taking a system that works from one that works in series, where there's multiple steps, to one where within minutes of the scan, the right care team in both the spoke and the hub are made aware of that patient and given the tools to view the images, to communicate with each other, and to coordinate care. It's about making care coordination intelligent. It's about synchronizing care. And we've seen this over and over in our centers, where we go from the serial process to one where the specialists are alerted immediately. We're able to shave off minutes and hours of time, which, as we all know, in stroke matters. The stroke platform that I know many of you use consists of a mobile image viewer, a HIPAA-compliant communication system, workflow trackers that allow you to see when the patient comes in through the door, when a scan is done, when someone looks at the images, and really take all that data to make sure you're continually improving the system. Powered by algorithms that detect disease like large vessel occlusion, CD perfusion mismatch, and ICH. And we've got the world's best, most studied AI because we were the first ones to get FDA clearance, and also the most sensitive and specific AI. This is a large study across 2,544 patients across 139 hospitals, showing a sensitivity of 96% and a specificity of 94%. We've seen this repeated in our ICH algorithm with sensitivities of 95% and specificities of 96%, with an incredibly short time to notification of less than 1 minute. This is best in class. And no matter what you might be hearing out there in the market, it's important to talk to people who actually use Viz and actually use some of the competitors' software to try and understand what the true data is about the accuracy of various systems. But what's really important is the time savings. And we see this time after time after time, even in the comprehensive centers like Dr. Fry's Skyridge Medical Center. He is seeing time savings of 24 minutes within the comprehensive center. In most of the hubs and spokes that we work in, we're seeing a spoke to hub transfer and initial door to eventual puncture savings of over an hour. And I know Dr. Hassan is going to speak about his experience there. This translates into outcome improvement, as we might see in reduced length of stay in the ICU and overall in the ward, and reduced 5-day and discharge and 90-day modified Rankin score. We know that time is brain, and we know by saving time significantly with procedures that work like thrombectomy, we can actually improve in a measurable way patient outcome. And this robust clinical data, as you all know, has been submitted to CMS, and it now is reimbursed at $1,000 40 for every time Viz is used, something that's unique to Viz. But it's important to realize that you can use Viz not just for neurovascular. We've expanded our indications well beyond neurovascular to really any procedural-based disease that you have out there, whether it's spine, whether it's trauma, whether it's oncology. And I'll give you just a really quick overview of this. Now in the ED, at a click of a button, you can go from viewing images to communicating with the specialist and sending them messages to say, hey, can you look at this case? The specialist will get real-time alerts, which can be manual, sent by the emergency room physician, but also AI enhanced, whether it's automatically detecting the disease or measuring something about it, like the size of the hemorrhage, or giving you a TLIC score in spine. That allows that specialist to view those images in real time while they're going about their everyday lives, whether in clinic, whether at home on call. They can view these images by simply Face ID logging in, see the images within a couple of seconds, and then as well as like any clinical information that happens to be pulled in from the EHR or that the ED physician has pulled in, and communicate that out through our HIPAA compliance system. What we've done in stroke, we want to do in all procedural-based medicine. We want to make sure that where your health system is able to treat those patients in an optimal way, treat them quickly and treat them every time, and make sure they're not leaking out to no treatment or to another health system. And so this whole system of action that Viz has designed is meant to help the generalists and specialists coordinate care and get immediate treatment decisions and consultations, as simple as you do in your day-to-day life with your iPhone or your Android. And those of you who use Viz, I think, have experienced that. I want us all to come together to try and make sure that the right patient does get the right treatment at the right time, so that we can have the EHRs of the world providing the system of record, but the Viz of the world providing the system of action. We really want to become how healthcare happens, the ecosystem, the infrastructure for healthcare. And I'd love to invite Dr. Hassan, if you're ready, you're ready, to talk about his experience and clinical data that he has captured since he started using Viz a couple of years ago after switching over from a competitive system. Amir, over to you.
Okay, everybody see my slides?
Yes.
Looking good.
Okay, so this is just a great example of how quickly things move, and our team communicating on the Viz app immediately after the CT was put on and pushed to the image viewer, and then when the CTP images start to come in, even before the Viz elbow detection, everybody's go. Just great teamwork. So a little bit about our program for those of you who don't know us. We are in South Texas, Valley Baptist Medical Center. We do about 1,300 neuro cases a year. We did about 250 mechanical thrombectomies last year, and we are currently 3 interventionalists that cover 2 different CSCs. We are only going to be talking about Valley Baptist Medical Center today, our first comprehensive stroke center, and one of its spokes, Valley Baptist Brownsville, because we implemented the stroke platform November 2018, the Viz stroke platform. So here's just an example. So this is South Texas. Here's Mexico. Here you have San Antonio. It's about a 4-hour drive. Corpus Christi is about 2.5 hours. Harlingen is this star right here. And these blue dots are all the different hospitals that transfer to us. And as you can see here, here's the list. So specifically Valley Baptist Medical Center, Brownsville, our sister hospital, was the first to implement Viz, only because it was very easy to get the contract approved since it's your sister hospital. It's 23 miles away, but the average distance from all of our spokes is about 57 miles. So here we want to map the patient journey. We're going to talk a little bit about all the different time gaps and what we did to try to improve each of these steps. Obviously, the focus is on pre-hospital arrival these days, what we can do for that. But this talk is really geared towards primary stroke center workup, and then door in, door out, transferring that patient to a comprehensive stroke center, and then letting that comprehensive stroke center take over and do what they do best. So some of you already know our previous research, but I'm going to just talk about our two latest presentations, abstracts that were presented at ISC. So the first one here is the implementation of AI significantly reduces door in, door out times at a primary stroke center prior to transfer. And what you can see here is obviously, like I said, we focused on primary stroke center workup and transfer. And what we found is there are significant delays in door in, door out times. We can significantly reduce these, but we're not doing a good enough job, right? In order to get the best outcomes, time is brain, every minute saved matters. And in our research last year, we showed that if you got the patient, if you got the CT angio report at 2 hours after the patient was in the hospital versus on an average of 66 minutes with Viz push alert, we saved over an hour. And what we found here is with this communication tool, with working with your hub and spoke network, you can significantly improve door in, door out times even further. The AHA goal door to needle time is 90 minutes for direct arriving patients and within 60 minutes for transfer patients. Viz's stroke platform uses obviously AI powered to suspect large vessel occlusion detection and alert the team. So here's Valley Baptist Brownsville. And again, here's our system, Valley Baptist Harlingen. And we looked at the difference in door in, door out times for these transfer patients. There were 63 total patients in the study, 28 pre-AI and 35 post-AI. We looked at the periods here listed. We implemented Viz November 2018. And then we looked at things like door in, door out at the primary stroke center, modified Rankin scale discharge, mortality rates, length of stay in the hospital, as well as specifically neuro ICU and hemorrhage rates. What we found was there's a 45% reduction in door in, door out, 102.3 minutes. And the thing is, we even want to do better than this. But this is just an example of how a system, a hub and spoke network. I mean, Dr. Gaitan, Dr. Sardana are hospitalists, neurohospitalists at Valley Baptist Brownsville. They're amazing. They're great neurologists. They both have stroke background. I think Dr. Sardana actually did a stroke fellowship at Hopkins. And, you know, working together, we've continuously improved their door to needle times, their transfer times. And even with that, it still wasn't enough. And now these implementations significantly reduce the door in, door out time, get those patients sooner to your primary stroke center. And as you'll see, there was an 11% improvement in good modified Rankin at discharge. So we know that this correlates directly, right? Time is brain. So key takeaways, obviously the incorporation of Viz software was associated with significant improvement in door in, door out times. It does lead to significant improvements in functional outcome and mortality in transfer patients. So our experience with the Viz platform has been pretty cool. I mean, we just love the alerts, right? Today, this is my 9th case today. We had AVM embos, we had aneurysms, we have subarachnoids. I mean, just everything under the sun came today. It's a perfect day for a fellow to train. But in all of that hecticness, there were 2 stroke codes going on at the same time. I happened to look at the first one, scrubbed into my previous case, thinking, okay, this is my last case of the day, and then totally missed the fact that there's a second stroke going on in the ED. And guess what? When I get that alert, hey, there's a completed CTP, and you know, it looks basically like this without showing anybody names, right? You know, this is a patient that's going to go. So just having that advanced mobile image viewing, the patient information, real-time patient information, which has continued to improve. I mean, this platform, we had it early on. We were the first hub and spoke in Texas. Now, seeing how people are putting information constantly, right? What was the last known well? What the NIH is? You can continue to add this information, and a lot of it, you know, we'll talk about this in a little bit, can be hopefully pulled in the future from the electronic health record, and you'll be able to get your door in time. So there are continuous improvements. Sensitivity and specificity, like Chris was saying earlier, continuously improves. I've seen several iterations of this, right? We've had it since November 2018, and it continues to do better. And I can tell you, because I have both, because we do research. So I have the the two biggest, you know, CTP analysis apps. And I could tell you this one, it's just faster, easier to download, easier to use. You know, scrolling through the image on LTE, just so much faster, so much easier. And then, of course, my favorite is the HIPAA compliant communication. Why? Because you have everybody bought into this. The neuro hospitals at the transfer center messages, hey, I got the stroke, NIH 12, can you look at the image? Oh, I see a large vessel occlusion. Or, hey, there's actually a dissection also in the carotid. I mean, these guys are great neurologists, right? They don't need me to look at their images, but that open communication, not having to wait for a CTA to be uploaded and then reconstructed, just really improves patient care. On the other end, house supervisor and all of the multiple phone calls that used to need to be done are all bypassed, right? We're all communicating. The house supers on this, EDs on this, house neuro hospitals are on this, and the research team. I mean, we're a site for SELECT2, CHARM, Timeless, just example of some of the acute stroke studies, and all of these are very time sensitive. So getting the nurses to know that, hey, there's a potential patient is extremely important and doesn't allow us to miss any patients. So now to switching gears a little bit. So implementation of AI stroke software significantly improves door into puncture time. So everybody always asks me this, hey, Amir, you know, you show great times in your hub and spoke network, but does it really improve anything at your CSC? And to be honest, most of the time I was like, yeah, it probably doesn't. You know, if you're a well-oiled machine, you're not going to see big differences. You're only going to notice the difference in the spokes. Well, it seems I was wrong, because when we looked at our own data, there is a difference. So the study rationale obviously is there are delays in delivering endovascular therapy, and those delays significantly reduce patients' ability to have good outcomes. So decreasing treatment delivery times, providing the best standard of care for all of your patients, especially those suffering from large vessel occlusion, obviously leads to improved outcomes. And the Viz elbow detection is extremely useful. Yesterday at Neuroscience Committee, just to give you an example, 6 of 7 mechanical thrombectomies that came in through our emergency room last month, all after hours. 6 out of the 7. Cath lab staff is not in-house. So this just makes it very clear how important, you know, software like this is. So we looked at 188 patients during the study window, 86 patients in the pre-AI group, 102 patients in the post-AI group. Compared the time interval between door in to groin puncture for all these large vessel occlusion patients, and then looked at modified Rankin outcomes. And what do we find? Door into groin puncture, 86 minutes saved. Just think about that. It's over an hour saved. You know, we're obviously not as a well-oiled machine like my friend Don Fry. His place showed that after implementing Viz, they never had a patient with a door to groin puncture greater than 90 minutes. So we know now, multiple centers have showed this, there is a significant time savings in your door to groin puncture times. And there happened to also be improved successful revascularization between the two groups. So we know that this really does work. Just giving you hub and spoke example for door in, door out. I gave you an example of a CSC. And now, you know, looking at our earlier data, this was published several months ago in Interventional Neuroradiology, and looking at 2.5 day reduction in hospital length of stay. These patients are not as sick. These patients leave the neuro-ICU faster, they leave your hospital faster, which reduces your cost. And obviously, everybody cares about cost these days. So to conclude, the implementation of Viz AI software in an optimized CSC continues to improve door to groin puncture times. We also observed an improvement in recan through this reduced treatment time, which in turn reduced risk of post-op complications. This data furthers the idea that AI software, along with an improved workflow, is a very effective tool and allows for improved patient outcomes. I just want to touch on one more thing. So going that one step further with the electronic health record integration. So synchronized patient care across physicians and devices, integrating that electronic health record. So we're gonna be getting this very soon. Universal clock is attached to the record, allowing the care team to accurately evaluate the patient. And Viz is going to be able to pull that from your electronic health record. So you're going to see this now. You're going to know the door in time. You're going to get stroke scale time. You know, if someone has baseline time, they can update that. You're going to get these alerts every time any of this information is updated in the app. You're going to get those alerts on your watch. So honestly, we're going to reduce the amount of time neurology specialists need to look for things. All of us, everybody on the team is just going to have a clear record. Everybody's in the same loop, and patient care will continue to improve. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Hassan. That data is amazing. Like 102 minutes door in, door out, 86 minutes door to groin, 10% recon improvement. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Dr. Jankovic, I'd love to invite you to share your screen and talk about your experience of Viz in the hemorrhagic stroke space.
How are we looking?
We're looking good, yeah.
Well, Amir, thank you so much. I can't listen to that talk enough because it gives me hope. I'm incredibly jealous of what you've facilitated in the world of ischemic stroke. And it's humbling to watch what you've accomplished and think about taking care of an intracranial hemorrhage. And I know you can empathize with all the patients that languish in our ICUs with very little guidance from the AHA about what to do with these patients, aside from capping the blood pressure and reversing anticoagulation. And particularly in light of the latest, greatest ICH trial that did not meet its primary outcome metric, MISTY-3 in 2019, it makes me feel very much like we're back in 2013 with ischemic stroke when IMS-3 was negative. And I do think we're years behind what you've been able to accomplish in the treatment of ischemic stroke. So we need help, and I'll take it any way I can get it. Because there is a silver lining. There is something that keeps me fighting to show that evacuating an ICH is going to lead to better patient outcomes. For instance, if every patient in MISTY-3 had met the definition of a successful surgical outcome, that being less than 15 cc's in the hematoma bed, the trial would have been positive, meeting its primary outcome metric. So like I said, we need help. And I think Viz is going to be one of these technologies that's going to provide it. So the Viz ICH platform is all about being alerted about intracranial hemorrhage, being able to, in real time, evaluate that hematoma in 3 dimensions with recons, just as you would on your home-based or PC-based image viewing application, being able to upload real-time information as a team, all in a HIPAA compliant fashion. So Viz ICH is simply a new module.
You're not sharing your screen, just in case I don't know if you thought you were.
Oh, wait, hold on now. Hold on.
I mean, no worries. You don't.
I'm so sorry.
He's that good. He doesn't need slides.
No, that's certainly not true. Let me see here. I apologize. How about?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Let's see here. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, yeah, these were my nightmares of patients being triaged. Is that full screen? Okay. Yeah, these were the patients that keep me awake at night, all these ICHs. As I said, MISTY-3 did not meet its outcome metric. Felt like IMS-3 back in 2013. There are silver linings. I think we will get to a positive ICH trial eventually, but not without help. And I think that the Viz platform of notifying us, being able to view those images in real time, quick and on the go, entering information onto the app, sharing it in HIPAA compliant fashion are going to be essential to really having that first positive ICH trial. So what is Viz ICH? Well, it's a new module to be used in conjunction or in parallel with Viz LVO to help us identify an intracranial hemorrhage. And the real benefit, the thing I'm most excited about hoping to prove, is that I foresee it accelerating screening and enrollment in clinical trials. And I'll give you a little teaser about how we've utilized that in a trial called Enrich. So this is what the app might look like. Lying in bed, receiving a notification. Viz Volume is an app not currently widely available yet, but under investigation that will help determine what that volume is. You can set inclusion criteria for alerts for the size of that hematoma. Then you can immediately, whether it's your hub, whether it's your spoke, and hopefully down the road in a clinical research ecosystem, multi-sites being able to communicate with one another, review cases on the fly, talk about planning trajectories, all through your smartphone. And it's not about just choosing those patients that I want to intervene upon. I think that Amir, particularly with those sites that are on average over 50 miles away, it's as important to be able to select on the fly the patients that you don't want to transfer to eliminate all those futile transfers. And it's very powerful when an ER doc is clearly reading verbatim a radiology report that they don't understand to me over the phone, and it's in the middle of the night and I don't have access to my mobile packs, then now I can pull up that image at my spoke. I can tell them what I'm seeing in real time, and I can prove to them that I am comfortable with that patient staying at their hospital. And even better, because I can tie every successive image to the same MRN number or name, I can tell them that repeat the scan tomorrow. I'll view it mobily, and I'll make sure that that patient's still stable for 12 or 24 hours later. Very important way to ensure that you don't bring the wrong patient to the hospital, but you focus on the right patient. And as I look at just a week of images that I've reviewed with Viz ICH and the accompanying Viz volume, it makes me realize how indispensable this app has come to my daily life. As we were talking yesterday, I'm so often swiping through my Netflix and Amazon Prime and New York Times apps to find my Viz app, which is the first app I view every morning. And not only that, but we can now update real-time information. So for this large left thalamic hemorrhage with extensive IVH, probably unsalvageable, a potentially salvageable baseline MRS of 2, but with a GCS of 5, intubated and sedated with an NH of 33, unknown last known well, I've made the decision right here that I don't think it's an interventional candidate. And I can get ahead of all the rigmarole and I can stop the madness. I can let everyone know, I've talked to the family, that we're heading towards a CMO status. And now we don't have to get that patient to the ICU emergently or rapidly lower the blood pressure, or give blood products and waste hospital resources for patients that we don't think are salvageable. It is a very powerful thing to be able to get that information to my entire working interventional team as quickly as possible. However, of course, these are the patients that I'm salivating for. These are the patients that I think are imminently salvageable nowadays. This 60 cc left deep basal ganglia hemorrhage, who I do think might be worth intervening upon. So I get the word out to my team that we're going to take this patient to the OR. And in a manner that only Mark Bain of the Cleveland Clinic could do, he can will this blood to come out of the head by using Nico's brain path to access the hematoma. And you can see blood does not want to be in a brain when the ICP is elevated. And hopefully convert that 60 cc hematoma into a clean hematoma cavity, our modern day TICI-3 for ICH evacuation. I also believe that every modern trial should dispense completely with that archaic ABC divided by 2 and use volumetric AI-generated analysis of intracranial hemorrhage volume. So now I can know in 3 dimensions just how large that irregular serpiginous hematoma is, but perhaps even more importantly, the bar has been set for what a successful hematoma evacuation is. It is not self-reported outcomes, and it's not even core labs with inadequate axial 3D CT slices. Now we have a volumetric proof that I've done what I came here to do, get that hematomal volume down to no red blood cell left behind. And if you believe that time is of the essence when you want to get that blood out of the brain, well, there's no better way to facilitate that than with artificial intelligence alerting you as soon as possible. I couldn't be happier. This was the flagship case that I achieved here at Cooper. Lying in bed, 12:08 a.m., CAT scan starts in the ER of Cooper. My phone is alerted at 12:09 a.m., my wife grumbling. I open up my phone at the bedside, 12:10 a.m. I view this app. And remember, all of these times are time stamped. You cannot lie. You cannot hide this data. So this is all available on the app. After calling my resident, waking him up, quick phone call to the ER attending, I've made the preliminary decision that I'm going to take this patient to the OR. 5 minutes from the CAT scan starting to me being notified, to me calling my resident, I've made a decision to surgically evacuate that patient. Unfortunately, I still struggle with getting the patient to the actual OR and getting that hematoma out in such a ridiculously quick time, but it gives me hope that we're going to get there. I'm sure, Amir, this reminds you of 2010 to 2015 as we were facing, as we were really critically analyzing our own times that we knew could be better. Well, this is giving me the power to shorten most of those times. And if you don't believe my word that getting that hematoma out in a timely fashion may lead to better outcomes, well, I'm proud to show that Chris Kellner's group at Mount Sinai, his work has just been accepted to stroke, showing that one, early evacuation was not associated with a higher risk of complications or rebleeding, that time to evacuation was independently associated with good long-term functional outcome, and for each additional hour from ictus to surgery, there was a 5% reduction in the odds of achieving, or in the success of achieving a favorable outcome. Okay, so now we're starting to generate this body of information that's sounding a lot like the ischemic stroke data that we were accruing years ago. I'm also proud to talk about our collaboration with NICO. So Enrich is a trial aimed at studying the randomization of early surgery versus medical management for intracranial hemorrhages of 30 to cc volumes. And we took a subset of the Enrich sites and we weaponized them with Viz, volume, and ICH to get early notification, to be able to quantify that hematoma volume, and to effectively communicate with our teams to get these patients notified as soon as possible. And we were able to present some of this data just recently at ISC in just 5 sites over the relatively recent acquisition of Viz ICH and Viz volume, an astounding over 24,000 non-con head CTs evaluated, yielding over 800 ICH alerts, any alerts over 5 cc's with regards to the hematoma volume, which resulted in 154 alerts within the trial criteria, 30 to 80 cc's. Median time from CT to notification, 2.6 minutes. Median time from that notification triggering my phone to me actually viewing it, 2.95 minutes, really remarkable times. And when I go back and look at the screening logs, particularly from the University of Pittsburgh when we were there, as the lead enroller in Enrich, I feel sorry for my poor stroke coordinator, Patty, who sifted through 752 patients to find 18 that met that inclusion criteria. Viz has completely redefined what it means to screen for trials. I think that more than ever, we're going to start to get a sense of what the true denominator is for all those patients we should be operating upon. But also you can see how disparate screening logs are among so many trials. I think Viz has the potential to capture all of that data and really give it to us, allow it to be used at our fingertips, and really potentially reduce a lot of the manpower that it takes to accrue all that information. And finally, drum roll please, these are the 2 most important pieces of data that I could share with you, that in those 5 sites that implemented AI Enrich, so implemented an artificial intelligence ICH detection system within Enrich, we took the top 3 sites. The screenings per month increased from 5.4 to 7.6, but most importantly, the enrollments increased from 0.29 to 0.82 patients per month. And when you think about a trial that is just fighting to try and enroll 3 patients per site per year, getting up to 0.82 trial enrollments per month is an astounding accomplishment, increasing the percent of enrollments up to by 213%. So just a taste of what's coming for the rest of you. So Amir and I would love to answer questions if Chris, you want to mediate this. And of course, we're always welcome for you to reach out to us by cell phone, text, or email to ask any further questions.
Dr. Jankovic, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate that. That data is amazing. 102 minutes, Dido, 86 minutes, door to groin, 10% improvement in TICI 2B3 recan rates, 5 minutes from ER spoke to neurosurgical decision to operate, 2.6 minutes from non-contrast to PI review for inclusion criteria, and a 216% increase in enrollment rate. It's what the technology was designed for, but it really makes me honestly very proud to be working with you both and actually achieving these results, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to benefit patients. So thank you. We really appreciate those talks. There's a few questions coming in, and please, if you post them in the Q&A, I'll curate them and go through them. There's a couple of questions which we always get of, Viz versus Rapid. And, I mean, I know that prior to using Viz, you were a Rapid user, and a lot of this data in some ways is post is Rapid versus Viz. Like, how has your experience been with Viz relative to Rapid and other software that you might use?
So we test a lot of things, as you know. We test devices, we test software for everybody, and it's the user interface always staying one step ahead. It's how fast it is able to reconstruct the CTA. I can go through the slices, go through the MIP, and all this on LTE. I don't even need to be on Wi-Fi. That is the big difference I see. When I talk to everybody else, they say it's more seamless. it's faster, and you actually get alerts. Now, we've seen the opposite, right? People say that the other one has more sensitivity, specificity. We haven't seen that. We get a lot more false elbow alerts, you know, than we do with Viz. But we've just had a great experience, like I said, since November 2018. You know, this case went so quickly. Door to device time, 72 minutes. The one I just did right now, while giving you guys a talk. I have an awesome fellow. And groin to recan, 14 minutes. So I mean, it really is just it's that momentum. It's that, and closing the loop, right? I took pictures of the recan and immediately put it on the chat. Why? So the ED can see it, the hospitals, right? Everybody feels like they know what happened. So it is extremely important. That's why the chat, you know, what people call the chat feature of our app, it's just better.
Thank you. And so easier to use and faster. And would you say head to head, it's more or less accurate than Viz versus Rapid? Which one is more accurate?
So like one of my friends, Lucas Solojovic, said, it's less likely to wake me up in the morning for something that's not really there. But we have great sensitivity specificity when it comes to detecting large vessel occlusion, and in combination with CT perfusion, which we have to do on all the studies because we're screening for, we have to do on all the patients because we're screening for so many studies. So we always have the CTA and the CTP, and it's been very good. A lot of people have always told me, oh, well, Rapid's CTP is, you know, tested with research and whatnot. That's great. It has been. We were part of Dawn. We were part of Swift Prime. But I can tell you right now, I have way less alien brain due to motion artifact when the whole brain is green, for those of you who don't know what alien brain means, with Viz compared to Rapid.
Yeah. And we're hearing this consistently that, you know, head to head in a real world setting, Viz is more accurate. And it's not surprising, right? We've just put a lot more in terms of AI resources into developing the algorithms over the years. Brian, from your perspective, which parts of the product do you make use of the most? And what would you like us as a company to invest more in developing?
Well, it's after the implementation of Viz ICH that it really opened my eyes into how powerful the platform is. Because when you're using Viz LVO, you're primarily sending all your stroke protocol CTAs to the system. But it's not until you open up every cranial imaging study performed at your hospital to the app that you really start to appreciate how much control it gives you of the workflow of your hub and all of your spokes. And so once we started seeing hundreds of scans a day. And by the way, you know, there was a lot of initial concern about CT fatigue or notification fatigue, but because it's imminently and immeasurably tailorable, the ability to determine how you're screened, why you're screened, by different thresholds of, let's say for ICHs, by different thresholds of volumes of that intracranial hemorrhage, you can really allow yourself to get a good night's sleep or be woken up quite frequently. But if you care about these patients, if you're on call, you need to know about these patients. So it's changed the way, not just how I treat ICH, but also how I take call. I also think about Tom Devlin's words at that emotional speech that he gave at the intro to this talk about care for stroke is a team effort. And it's fascinating. The more people we add to the app, the more people want to be added to the app. And the faster that we start implementing data, because it's rewarding all those same dopaminergic reward pathways that being on Twitter or any other social media feed is, the faster people race to get that data entered in and be part of that team that's all trying to help this patient as fast as possible. So I do think it's strengthened our stroke team. I think that it is put faces to names to many of the people that are behind the scenes. My residents don't often know who the stroke coordinators are, but they sure do now, because my stroke coordinator is as likely to tell me about an alert or enter some clinical info as my resident or my nurse or an ER doc. And then finally, just the simple ease of using this now as my de facto imaging viewer. That is a powerful thing. That is the way I prefer to look at all images now, at least at my hospital. I don't sit down and open my packs on my computer. I'm at my computer looking at my Viz app when it's coming to evaluating images.
Thank you. Yeah, we hear a lot about the social element of Viz and how it brings teams together. One thing, Amir, I saw you just doing was sending the outcome of the case back to the ER. And what sort of post surgical things do you use Viz for?
Post-surgical,
As in
post-mechanical thrombectomy, or even the ICH?
no, for either, like post case to close the loop.
Yes, no. So, for example, we get all types of transfers from Valley Baptist Brownsville. So we get ruptured AVMs, subarachnoid hemorrhages, ICHs, like Brian was showing those pictures. So that communication is always going on, right? Whether or not it's a stroke, they love the fact that they can view the images together, right? And then we're all chatting and discussing. I have been I transferred 2 dissections this weekend, and I showed them both classic flame sign carotid, and then sent them the post stenting pictures. So whether it's post stenting, post coiling, Artemis cases, we don't do NICO, we do Artemis, the minimally invasive hematoma evacuation with penumbra aspiration. And yes, I'm done. And all of those pictures can be sent to that group. And like you said, it does close the loop. I trained at University of Minnesota. And that's one of the things that, Kirsch used to beat into us, right? Like when you accept that transfer as a fellow, you better send them a letter, in a couple of days, tell them what happened. And now it's instant. I mean, I'm not sending them 3 days later. I'm sending it within a couple of hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and what we find is, the time savings that you've achieved are amazing, but it's not all just the AI alert. It's the team, right? The software is not doing any of the work. You're doing the work. But if that emergency room nurse or physician doesn't get that patient packaged up fast for the ambulance, you're not going to be saving 100
No,
and
of course, but it's the thing, right? It's a combination. It's having access to the images faster, an easy to use communication tool, an easy to use user interface. All of these make everything else easier.
yeah.
And like you said, a little friendly competition. We all like to compete, door to groin, door to needle, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing we're also very proud of is the stroke like workflow support that our customer success team does to make sure people are engaged with the app, people are communicating, the CT angiograms have been done in an appropriate way, and that there's good sort of protocols in place outside of the software. Can either of you speak to that and how important the human element is of these kind of technologies?
Well, nothing makes me happier than finding what you're doing wrong and making you aware of it. So I'm always scouring the images to try and find something to needle your company about. And I have to say that every time within 24 hours, and usually within an hour or so, I get an email back asking me to explain, document, further clarify, or discuss how they can do better, or what they could do differently, or why I'm worried that there could be a false positive or false negative. So it, that to me means the world, that you're actively engaged in trying to make this an even better product than it already is, and to have a human there that I can discuss with anytime I need to about some question or concern.
That's great to hear, because again, as Tom said, it's a team sport, and we honestly could not improve the product without your feedback. And we love working with you both. We love working with all of our customers and users just to continue to iterate on the product and make it better.
I think we all get the sense that that most of your employees, they feel like part of the team too. And the more that we can engage them and show them films and bring them into the clinical realm, I think they're excited to do that. It's palpable.
Yeah, they're a great bunch. One question from the audience this came in was, do you have any patient testimonials, I think, or examples where Viz compares patient outcome with the same scenario where the system was not used? I think it's kind of like and that's really, Amir, is your data, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, we do have patients from Brownsville pre and post, right? So we can even adjust for age and baseline NIH. So yes, we do some of these stories. We also have a stroke support group. We do a black tie event every year to raise money for stroke awareness. So we typically invite the stroke survivors and all of these patients to come to those events. And it's the joke is, right, like, Dr. Tech and Dr. San are going to dance with the patient that they think is, has recovered the most. And it's a good time. It really brings a lot of awareness. NBC, CBS, all the local news cover it. So yes, we have done this.
Actually, Chris, I'll pose a question to you. There was an excellent question about basically how can we incorporate in my mind, the two ends of the spectrum from the very beginning to the very ending. Nothing would make me happier than than to use Viz to get information not back to just the spoke, but also to EMS that was on site picking up that patient, and eventually to communicate with the rehab docs about how the patient's doing and how I saw them. Chris, are there any endeavors to bring EMS into the fold to be able to communicate with them, or for them to provide data to us from the moment that they strike that patient, let's say with a race scale or a race score?
Yes. So right now you can integrate your pre-hospital page into Viz, and a lot of systems are doing that. And if you haven't done that yet, Ryan, you should ask your customer success rep. It's quite a simple integration, and it allows you to know patients coming in, and will create a two-way channel between if they have Viz, between the EMT and whoever is on the stroke team. So that's a great way to know that there's a patient 20 minutes out. And we're adding a lot of other features in for pre-hospital over time and testing them. In terms of the post-op like interaction, for example, with rehab, I see that as incredibly important, particularly in stroke and trauma, where your continued involvement is really important to make sure that the patients are getting the right kind of rehab, because ultimately, an MRS of 1 or 2 doesn't mean a lot to the patient. It's like all of the other subtle things and help that they might need, back to work programs, cognitive rehab, etc. And so the Viz Clinic product allows you to record asynchronous messages. You can go over the scan, you can go over clinical data, you can send that both to the patient and to whichever physician or facility might be caring for that patient, just to make sure that they have your instructions and they know who you are. That's being used in the surgical setting. So reviewing an aneurysm case, in oncology, reviewing a tumor and saying what you might do, even in spine as well. But it's also being used in the post-acute setting, where you can give your instructions, maybe report on how the case went, so that the patient and the follow-on providers are aware. So I encourage you to adopt those, and we'll be happy to get you set up.
Cool.
There's a question about what physiological parameters could be utilized in the field to help potential stroke patients.
Yeah, I mean, what the easiest thing to do would be for an EMS to be able to upload a race, some pre-hospital
Exactly.
prediction of LVO. But I love the question how it then morphs into some of the new technologies that use SCPs or EEG or TCD to help predict a stroke. Could you foresee inputting more complex patient data through Viz, whether it's an EKG or pulmonary artery pressures or SCPs or EEG or TCDs?
Yeah, so we already incorporate EKGs into Viz, and it's right now it's just a photo. We haven't yet integrated with the machines, just because there's various machines. But people take a photo and you have that. And we're actually developing some cardiac algorithms to look at EKGs. But ultimately, think of Viz as a platform where there's a mobile component, a desktop component, and communication. We get all of the right people on it. You can put anything you want in there. We just need to know what the file type is and the origin, and we can incorporate it in. Okay. And so things from the field, honestly, the TCD or the EEG telemetry, that could easily come into Viz and be available for you.
It's that type of power that is really going to change the way that we design trials from the ground up. This technology is so new. Just about every major trial design couldn't have foreseen how fast you would be able to implement something like Viz or Viz Recruit into the structure of a trial design. And I look forward to using it from the ground up to help think about just revolutionizing screening or inputting data from the get-go and having it all synthesize that information, facilitate randomization, all once again communicate and run a case by the study PIs, which we used to do with iPhone videos and heckling people with poor internet access and at midnight, all tied together through one mobile platform.
Yeah.
And just to close off, I think, you know, Brian made a great point about potentially race score, van score, whatever score you like pre-hospital screening. I think there is an opportunity for EMS to get involved, you know, connecting certain EMS providers, companies with the CSC or the PSC they're going to send to, keeping that all in a loop, and then sending them a picture post-op and saying what happened with this case. There's a lot of opportunity.
Fantastic.
Agree.
Yeah. As we expand beyond stroke, what would you recommend to Viz are the areas that we focus on, or the functionality that you would like to see?
Outside of stroke?
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, it's I'd like to see the rest of neurovascular disease covered, right? So you're starting to have ICH. I want to be able to get alerts for epidurals, subdurals. You know, we're doing a lot of MMA embolizations for that now. Getting subarachnoid hemorrhage and, you know, telling me if it sees an aneurysm on CTA. If so, what is it? Where is it? What's the size? I think this is the direction we're moving. And then, of course, even importing the MRI on these patients. So then post-mechanical thrombectomy could also find out, hey, my final stroke size was X, even though my initial aspect was 8.
You know, I don't know whether I should think disease specific or care provider specific. Because honestly, what excites me more is the potential to have every radiographic image being funneled through Viz. I mean, if you want to achieve your primary MO is to integrate the entire hospital, every physician, every person in that hospital who you want to communicate with that could ever lay a finger on your patient, or vice versa, if you ever lay a finger on someone else's patient. I think that may be the most exciting component as I've seen the care teams expand and just facilitate, improve, expedite patient care, regardless of what the disease is. So yeah, I mean, to me, the low-lying fruit is clearly ICH, and then subdural hematoma, and then IVH and aneurysms, but that's just scratching the surface of the you know, considering that's such a small percentage of the patients in the hospital. I really can't wait till it's expanded to really every patient in the hospital, every disease state, every imaging study.
Well, you know, I'll use that moment just to make a small pitch, because that's exactly what we're doing, and we are launching our intelligent care coordination platform, which does exactly what you've asked for, Dr. Jankovic. Essentially, it allows any image, any user, whether it's a healthcare provider or an associated healthcare provider, to be on Viz. And you can expand now, right? It's a very simple expansion. We already have the integration with PACS and the CT scanners. We simply need to include the MRs, but also expand PACS out to be any type of image and get the users on. And you can start with 10 people, you can start with 20,000, it doesn't matter. It's very flexible for that. So we encourage everybody who's listening in today, whether you're interested in, you know, improving stroke workflow or more broadly on in intelligent care coordination for any disease state, please reach out to us. And we will do our best to get you the software as quickly as possible. So I want to thank you both. Really appreciate you taking the time, not just here on this webinar, but with all of the work you do for your patients, for the field, for pushing it forward. You guys are the true innovators, and thank you very much for coming here and talking. Really appreciate it, and great to see you both.
Our pleasure.
And thank you, everybody.
Thank you for the invitation, everyone. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.